This is the Ducati Monster 821. For those of you familiar with Ducati, the Monster was the bike that saved the company back in the early 90s. Traditionally made up of parts from all of their other bikes kind of thrown together to create this monster of a motorcycle. It has it's the classic naked bike look, no plastics or anything. It's basically a fuel tank, fender, seat cowl on the back, and that's pretty much it. This is their middle of the road Monster. In 2020, Ducati released the 797 Monster, the 821, and the 1200 and the 1200S. As I said, this is the 821. It comes with the 11-degree Testastretta motor, puts out about 109 horsepower, and has 3 different riding modes. The nice thing about the newer Monsters are they do have the updated display. So if we come up here, turn the key, pumps are going to come on. So we've got the color TFT display. I'm in my garage right now, so it is kind of has that night mode. We also have 3 different riding modes. So right now it says here that we are in sport mode. If I click, I can come down here and it's going to change to touring or urban. And you'll notice how the Ducati traction control and ABS settings change. So we hold in our key. There we go. It's going to switch to touring mode. Touring mode provides you with a little bit more on the display. So I can scroll through my trip odometers here, the range left until empty, trip time, total miles. So I've got 511 miles on it here. If I go down, it'll change the other side from air temperature to my average fuel consumption, average speed, and then back to that air temperature. It gives me my ABS and traction control settings. I have a fuel gauge, temperature for the engine as well, for the water-cooled engine. So a really, really nice display. For me personally, this is actually the 3rd Ducati I've owned in my life. I originally had a 1998 Monster M900, and then I sold that in 2013, and I bought, at that point, it was the same, it was their middle of the road Monster. It was the 796 Monster, and that was the one, the year where you could option to have ABS or not, and I chose to get the one with ABS, and I loved that bike. I sold it about 2 years ago and decided it was time to get back into the game again, get another bike, and so that's why I chose to go with the 821. A little bit more power than what I had before. The 796 back in 2013 was putting out right around the mid-70s in horsepower. So this one puts out about, as I said, 109 horsepower, so quite a bit more. And you can tune it down with those different riding modes. This bike has ABS. My understanding is there's no option anymore. They all come with ABS, which I would highly recommend. It saved my life on my old bike. So I wasn't getting anything other than a bike with ABS on it. This is the water-cooled engine. So some people aren't huge fans of it. It doesn't have maybe that same rattle as you would have had in an older Ducati. But since I think it was 2013, I believe. Don't hold me to that. YouTube is when they got rid of the dry clutch and they went with the wet clutch. So you can't have that open clutch cover like you used to have on your older Monsters or older Ducatis, or any Ducati that has a dry clutch, which is awesome, but unfortunately we can't do that now. And then we've got the radiator in the front for the water-cooled engine. Now, if you go up to the 1200S Monster, you will have an oil cooler. So it actually comes down here. You'll see it'll be like a little mini radiator down below. There's usually some color on it as well. So if it's a red bike, you have a little bit of red on the side there as well. And that's your oil cooler. For this model, engineers figured they could keep the oil at a good temperature without needing a separate oil cooler. So it doesn't have that, which I like. I personally don't like as much stuff down there in the front, the radiator and so on. But it comes together really well. Now, another piece that was updated back in 2018, if you watch any videos on YouTube of the other, of the 821 Monster, you would have seen some videos from before 2018. The rear sets used to actually be attached to these pegs, they'd come up and then come out, and you'd bump your heel on them if you had boots on. They've adjusted those in 2018, so the rear set actually attaches up here for your passenger. So they're definitely much more out of the way, which is nice. My only complaint that I have is when I'm riding is my boot. I kind of ride with the ball of my feet up here on the peg sometimes, and the back of my boot hits this heat shield for the exhaust. It doesn't get too hot, not nearly as hot as this one does, but it's just a little bit uncomfortable. I do plan on replacing this with the Termi exhaust slip-ons for my service that's coming up. So we'll do an exhaust sound test before and after video also. So that'll be coming once that service is done in a couple weeks, because they have to order those parts in from Italy. So they're going to take a little bit of time, especially with the COVID-19 closure of everything. For 2018, there were two options with the Monster. One option was just to get the red. When we talk about colors, rather, two options. You could get red, or you could go to the Stealth model. The Stealth was a flat black with some flat gray. You had a lot of different decals and things like that. That Monster, I believe, was about $1,500 more than just the red one. It came with a quick shifter, and I couldn't honestly tell you off the top of my head some of the other features that it comes with. The quick shifter itself you can get and have installed by Ducati for I think it's a few $100s, maybe $500 or $600. It's not something that I'm doing. I'm going to go with the exhaust upgrade first. Some upgrades that I have done, I have replaced the mirrors, the big antenna mirrors that come up and out. Those we took off as soon as I got the bike. I still have the handles here, or levers for your clutch and everything. You can still see the holes. I don't have any filler screws for those yet. But I got these bar end mirrors, which I think look great, much better than the other ones did. Originally, when I installed these bar end mirrors, I had them down so they swung underneath, and that looked really great, but I had to take my eyes off the road to look in the mirrors. I actually had to tilt my head down to see in the mirrors, so I decided to flip them up just to be a little bit more safe. What else? I've added the quad lock for my phone here. I have about a 35-40 minute commute, and so I do like to have Waze on or GPS, and so this has been great. I actually just got it. I rode it the other day with it for the first time on the highway, and it held up really well. So that's quad lock for my phone. My iPhone does a really great job holding my phone where it needs to, which is great. All right, so what else does this bike have on it when you get it? The one nice thing about this bike, it does have it has a USB port. So depending on what you want to do, the USB port's actually up underneath the seat here. So if you have like a phone stand or something like I have the quad lock up here, you could run a wire to that USB port to charge your phone. You could use it for whatever else you might need to charge. It's got a battery tender on it already, which is great. Don't have to worry about getting into the battery, which is actually down here. That's already taken care of from the dealer, which was really nice. So I live in Pennsylvania. I purchased this bike from Quaker City Motorsports, which is in Manayunk, just outside of Philadelphia. Guys, they were great to deal with. They have an awesome selection of bikes. I'll be taking it back there to get my services done also. It's a bit of a drive from where I'm at, but I have a pickup truck, so I'll throw it in the back of the truck and then drive it in. Dealing with the traffic down into Philly. Don't really want to be on my motorcycle for that. But like I said, Quaker City Motorsports, they were great to deal with. The Ducati dealers seem to be harder and harder to find nowadays. I had a few within about an hour or so of where I live, so I was fortunate in that regard. But I ended up going with them. They had a used bike that I was looking at, a used 821 from 2016, and I just didn't like some of the features at that point. So I'm glad I just decided to bite the bullet, go with the new model, that way I know the engine, I know its riding history, and so I'm really happy with the purchase here at about 500 or 600 miles in. Definitely do not regret it at all. I'm excited to get the new exhaust, but let's fire it up and listen to it. All right, so that wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously I really enjoy this bike. If you're looking at getting a motorcycle, I highly recommend Ducati. After my service that I have coming up, and we will put the Termi exhaust on, I'll do another video that kind of talks about the pricing of services and the service intervals. The first service interval is 600 miles, pretty standard right away, breaking in the engine and things like that. And until that service, you're not supposed to get your revs really close to that red line. You're supposed to make sure that you're kind of taking it easy, just break that engine in. And then afterwards, you can kind of open it up a little bit more. So after that service here in a couple weeks, I'll make another video that kind of talks about what those service intervals are, what costs are associated with that, because historically Ducati is always thought to be really expensive to service. That's true. However, those service intervals are much farther apart than they used to be. So we can break that down in a second video if you're interested. If you like this video, please like it, share it, subscribe to the channel. Even if you're not into all the videos that I post, I'm trying to make some more, create some more variety on the channel. So appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care.